Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Alrighty. Oh, no. Starting. We're live, guys.
We are live.
We're live.
Coming to you live from Noah's Ark in Tennessee. Because the rain just won't stop. I'm over it.
I know, it's nonstop lately. Alright, people. Come on in and come hang out with us.
Doesn't seem like we're going to get a break in the rain for some time either, which sucks, man.
I've never seen a live stream health of orange.
Ooh.
That's new. Okay.
Caution before proceeding, I guess, when watching.
Yeah, right. That's my favorite. Alrighty, so I guess we'll just go ahead and hop in there. Let me shut the door over here because I, like a dumbass, forgot. Hey, keep it down. Shut the door now.
We go live well before we go live, if that makes sense.
Yes. Well, it would
We
not
get
be...
to see you get set up and look at your notes.
It's all good. It gives people a chance to filter in, gives me a chance to lean my little microphone over here, and now you can hear me.
Ooh, sexy voice.
It's much better, isn't it?
Yes.
I can hear you fine. You can hear me fine. We're good to go.
Levels are good.
Levels are great.
How you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Yeah.
It's been, dude, like I can't even tell you how busy of a week it's been. Like
you and me both.
Like today, like normally on Wednesday before the show,
right?
I'll go through and I'll try to prepare my notes, and I basically come straight home from work. I come back here in the office. I basically tell everybody I'm off limits today. You leave me alone, and I hustle and get my notes done. And what does the scenery look like usually when you're coming in?
Usually it's pretty calm.
Yeah.
Not today.
Well, not today. Well, usually I'm last minute trying to get the shit done. If I'm,
right.
I guess maybe we're experiencing it different things, but I'm always last minute trying to get all the last little notes, and it's like, oh, good Lord, just nonstop. Anyway, today ended up getting really far behind because of a number of things. Had a dentist appointment for one of the kids, which that takes priority, and then I come home, and after we went to the store because I was like, okay, so I've got like an hour to get everything done that I normally get done in like 3 hours.
So basically, there's no time to decompress before the show, is what you're saying.
Not today. Not today. We actually did manage having a few minutes, and that was amazing because I got smart and I prepared ahead of time.
Right.
Which it'd be nice if I did that more often, But at any rate, it's always a crapshoot trying to put notes together. But at any rate, we're going to hop on into the show. Read the intro and
Let's do it.
All right. Offensive hockey teams, offensive crayons, offensive thoughts, and a dash of useful information. These are the ingredients we've chosen to use for tonight's delightful recipe. Tonight, we cook up some Jussie Smollett Brulee, chop up some YouTube comments, and try not to burn up the housing market any worse than it already is. Stay tuned for this edition of the #Wednesday Wisdom Unframe of Mind live show.
You're listening to the Unframe of Mind show, the place to have the most mind-stretching, unprotected, intellectual intercourse of your life. Your host, Daniel Wagner, battles the forces of evil by lobbing fiery balls of truth, reason, and evidence over safe room walls.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen.
It's Wednesday. It's live show day.
I know. I'm
Wednesday
so excited.
Wisdom.
So excited. Yeah, you were watching the Unframe of Mind show where we have uncomfortable conversations without a condom. And I'm your host, Daniel Wagner.
Co-host, Anthony Trewick.
Yeah, all right. I'll take it, I guess.
Well, wait a minute. Am I co-host or host? We were having a discussion on Twitter about
yeah,
this.
that's interesting. Well, I mean, I figure, if you're going to do your own segments and stuff, you can't call yourself the co-host. That would be weird.
Well, no, but I'm introducing people as the co-host of Unframe of Mind.
Yeah, I know.
The live show.
I know, but Unframe of Mind is so much bigger than that. It's all you guys. It's us. It's like a community. At least it should be. I mean, we can't just have a co-host. Just sounds so demeaning and demoralizing.
But it's true.
Oh, I know. You know what else is true?
What?
I'm a white guy living in America today.
Hey, proud to be white.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with
it. Whoa.
What?
You don't be.
What?
Don't get me all mixed up in that racist shit.
Oh shit! Whatever.
Anyway, so let's start off with a small subject here. And this is something that I know is near and dear to your heart.
Oh, it is.
I saw you put up a post about the Predators.
Yes.
Getting a rename, or some students were bitching about it, basically.
Yeah.
Tell us
basically, it's a college out of Atlanta that's trying to push rebranding the Nashville Predators to the Nashville Sabercats, I believe. And they're wanting to steer away from the word predator as it is associated with, obviously people not doing so good things to underage kids. But, the problem I have with this is that after 20 years, they're now wanting to say that all of a sudden that the term predators is something that is offensive or is something associated with something that's outside of hockey, which is not the case. Because if you think about the Nashville Predators and the word predator or Preds or Smashville or whatever, you automatically associate that with hockey.
That is funny though. Predators is like, it's kind of got the sexual connotations, but Smashville.
Well,
man,
that could be taken so many different ways as
know.
well.
So, I'm a predator entering Smashville. That's just begging for rape culture.
Is it?
Yeah.
Hashtag me too.
Yeah, that's you might as well just go ahead and put the hashtag at the end of every post you do about the Predators.
But I think that's it is another example of the PC culture pushing its way into sports. And part of the reasons why we enjoy sports is to get away from the PC culture, is to get away from the politics, and and now it's kind of interjecting itself into our lives, and it's something that I have a big problem with as a fan that's been following the team since day one. I would never have associated the word predator, any kind of sexual orientation, as far as when it comes to underage kids being molested. I'm sorry, your thought process of thinking that way really is misconstrued if that's what you want to associate.
Well, it kind of tells me a whole lot about what's going on in your mind, that's the kind of thing that enters your mind when you hear the word predator. Because when I hear predator, my first thought is mountain lions. My first thought is a bear. Animals that are at the top of the food chain, predator versus prey. And then maybe my mind might, if I'm pushed a little farther, I might go to Chris Hansen's To Catch a Predator. That might be where I go next. But
it just shows the thought process of where people are at and what they associate things with. And it's not just with the Predators either. There's other teams that they're going after. It's
just
not
looking
just the
for
Preds.
something to be outraged about.
That's like the Atlanta Braves. It's offensive to do the tomahawk, during a baseball game because you might upset the Native Americans.
Yeah.
I don't.
But if you ask the Native Americans, they're like, we're cool with it. What's the problem? It's always like
they want to know the score in the bottom of the eighth.
It's always like 20-something white ladies, or it's like middle-aged. I'm not gonna get laid anymore. I'm past my sexual prime and I'm miserable about it. So I'm out looking for something to be offended about, and I want to be offended on the behalf of everybody else.
I just kind of wonder.
No. Oh, I'll let you finish, but I got a theory.
No, I just kind of wonder, these kids that are going to school for this and wanting to rebrand a national hockey team or whatever sports team that they're going after. What possesses you to want to go after this? What ideally wants you to push something that there is no stigma behind, because you have now made it a stigma? And wanting to suggest something bad when it comes to the word, predator. The word has been around for a very long time, and it wasn't associated until, the last couple of years when it comes to, underage kids and adults. So I don't know. It's one of those situations where I don't see anything happening with it. I think they're just trying to make a little noise with it. And
I hope not. It's just funny. I thought it was hilarious when it came up.
Well, yeah. And then I posted on social media, and of course the feedback that, that I'm getting from all of it, and people that I'm friends with that are also fans they're just kind of surprised. Mm-hmm. But if you think about the current culture we live in, I'm not shocked at all that somebody is trying to make a push for this. It was just a matter of time.
Yeah,
it really was.
It never even crossed my mind until you put the post up. Like, I guess I could see that maybe. We need to look up who these people are and hire them to be our professional phibismists for the show.
I was going to go that route.
Instead of us trying to come up with the stuff, we'll just get somebody who's already a professional at it.
Right.
And we'll just have them on the show. Listen, we've got this story here. We need you to tell us because we don't understand. We're trying to see things through your eyes and the way you see the world. What's offensive about this? There's got to be something. There's bound to be something.
Right.
And then we just sit back and just cross our arms and watch the fireworks begin.
Yeah, and I think that this was basically done to run a analytical test on to see the kind of feedback that they get from the population as far as how well this would go over.
Right on.
There's not a lot of people that support this idea.
Well, y'all, welcome to the chat rooms. I'd like to see who's watching. Let me know you're
don't
there.
Be a predator, man.
Yeah, don't be a predator. Don't be hiding in the bushes behind the, say something. Let us know you're there. Tell us we're full of shit.
There's nothing wrong with being creepy.
And while we wait for them to type up, some kind of like odd, creepy, sexual undertone type comment to us.
Yeah.
Why don't we read an offensive crayon for
yes.
this week? Now, we started this last week. We've read 6 out of a box
I
of
pulled
24.
all the colors with the exception of the last. So this time I'm going to let you pull.
I'm trying not to
color.
look because my first, I always want to reach for the black. Not I mean, just because I've always been a fan of.
Really?
Yeah.
You want to go for the black?
Yeah. All right. Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't even know if I can read this on air.
Oh, shit. Let me see it before you read it. I just want to see what it says. Oh, shit.
Oh, dear.
Oh, man. You're going to have to, man. That's part of this segment.
All right.
We're going to have to read it.
Well, I just need to see a vote in the comment section. Just let us know. Should we read it or not?
Yeah.
That's what I want to see. At any rate. So we'll come back to that.
This pulling of crayons on this segment or this show is going to be a lot more interesting than say it wasn't last.
Yes, it could be. It could be. So, there's another story that's been going around about Jussie Smollett.
Yeah, haven't heard anything about
Smollett. I don't know how you pronounce it, but when
I just pronounced
Smollett,
it.
It reminds me of the '80s hairdo.
Yeah.
Except it's more smooth. At any rate, yeah. So. Basically, I'm sure anybody knows what the story is, and if you don't know what the story is, go ahead and look it up. Dang, we lost 2. We didn't even read the crayon, and we lost 2 people in the.
I guess we should have read the crayon. People are pissed.
All right, fine. We'll read the crayon to 2 people. It's Auschwitz ash gray. It's So we're going on to the next story. All right. So basically, here's what we got. I'll play that in a minute. So what we got? Jussie Smollett.
Yeah.
He was just a brief overview here. He was accusing 2 white guys of beating him and putting a noose around his neck and splashing with bleach at 2 a.m. as he went down to go get a Subway sandwich while he was on the phone with his manager.
Right.
And the story just didn't add up. Anybody that heard the story right offhand was just like, "This is not adding up. What the heck's going on?"
Right.
And we've gotten a lot more details this week. And I don't know how much you've been keeping up with this story.
Oh, I've been following the whole story. Yeah.
Feel free to jump in any time where it sounds like I'm struggling. But basically what I am to understand, allegedly, what was done was 2 guys were in cahoots with him. The 2 guys they saw on the cameras were actually Nigerian nationals, one of which worked with him on the show Empire. And they set the whole thing up so to make it look like a fake hate crime. Some people said possibly because he was getting ready to be kicked off the show or written out of the script, which the station said no, that's not the case. I don't know. There ain't no way of telling. But just the fact that this is the kind of thing that keeps getting done over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And like the prevalence of actual hate crimes and white nationalists out there beating black people is like none. I'm not hearing of any actual occurrences, with rare exceptions, because the media is going to glom onto it as soon as they get the opportunity.
Well, they are, even when it's fake. So it doesn't matter whether
Obviously.
it's a hoax or not. The media is going to take any chance and opportunity to run with this. And
the fact that they have to fake it, though, is telling me how desperate they are.
This is something that I've kind of been given some thought about. And as much as the situation has unfolded, and the more we sit back and the more information that comes out and we learn about it, and and we kind of see what the evidence has been presented, to me, this situation was borderline about to create a racial war. You have several different things, key factors that you have to factor in here. There's a race factor. There is a the homosexual factor, type, yes. Yeah. And then, of course, him being, somewhat of an influential person that has a lot of followers, over 5 million on Instagram, no telling on Twitter.
Oh, no shit. I knew he was well known in his particular community, I'm sure,
right.
But
so
I had never heard of the guy until
I have because of the show.
Yeah.
I just wondered what would possess somebody to want to go this route. Even if it was to to spark some interest in your show, you went about it the wrong way.
Yeah.
What I think,
undoubtedly,
the problem I have with this now is that you have a black man. You also have people coming out. What is the word I'm looking for? I'm starting to have a brain fart myself. But you have other.
It's a first for everything.
Other groups.
Okay.
I know.
I'm here for you.
But you have other groups that are coming out and condoning his just saying his behavior is not acceptable. He needs to be punished for this. He needs to be charged, which I think we all agree, even coming from the black communities and from other people that
I've seen a number of a number of my friends on Facebook, black, white, and everything in between, is saying, this guy needs to be punished. This is bullshit. I mean, this is the kind of thing that we keep seeing crop up over and over and over again, and it makes people think that there really is a huge race war issue out there. And I mean, there might be to some degree, but not to the level where you've got people in MAGA hats specifically going around beating up black men at 2 a.m. in the middle of 7-degree weather. Like, that's ridiculous.
So, and for me, this is really starting to expose the narrative of the left, meaning that they are willing to go to no ends.
By all means necessary.
By all means necessary.
Yeah, you hear that a lot.
To, really, I guess, paint this ugly picture of Trump supporters, which, this dogmatic stigma that you have of the MAGA hat wearing white guy Trump supporters, you're not getting the racial profiling that you want to see. And I think it's pissing people off to the point where, well, if they're not going to do it, we're going to do it for them. We're going to stage this. We're going to make them look bad and expose them for who they are. Well, that's the problem, is that Trump's base is not that kind of people. Never has been.
No,
I don't think, and when you go into the black community, and something I've alluded to on Facebook and social media, and there is some truth behind this, I think that there's a lot of people, and even outside the black community, I don't think it's so much Trump as a person is why he was elected. There's a lot of things. If you look at the broader picture here, there's a reasons why Trump was elected in office. We don't like late-term abortions. We don't. We love our Second Amendment. We love our right to bear arms. There are so many different key factors, and something I kind of alluded to before is just, past 30 years, politicians have been talking about moving the embassy, to Israel and recognize Israel as the capital.
Right.
All these presidents have made that promise. Nobody has
never even tried.
No, Trump has done that. So
before I miss it here, the swamp cleaner. Hey, welcome to the show, Harry. I appreciate you hopping into the comment section. He says this Smollett being charged with a felony disorderly conduct. He should be charged with a hate crime.
Right.
And I'm of the opinion that if you commit some kind of fraud like this, where you're trying to get somebody in trouble for a hate crime or something, anything like this, you should be punished. You should receive the exact same punishment that person would have gotten if they would have gotten charged. Like there should be. I mean, it's almost worse than the actual crime. I mean, I hate to say that, but it's like there's so many different levels of insidiousness to this. Like, you got to have a really twisted fucking mind to not only. I mean, you got to have a twisted mind to do the crime, but then to sit there and create the crime in your mind and then act it out and then be willing to blame it on somebody else and let them take the rap for it. It's like there's so many layers and levels to that. It's like you're one sick, twisted fuck.
Well, and the fact that this, and I hate the fact that it was racially motivated. That's what sucks, because given the time and the atmosphere that we currently live in, where people automatically assume that there's more division in this country than ever before, I think what people need to stop and realize is that when Trump got elected in office, he didn't bring this racial division with him. It's been in the country for a long time.
I've been talking about it for a long time. I'm sure you've been talking about it,
and I have,
seeing it.
But I think what happened is when Trump got elected, it exposed this culture that we're seeing. It exposed the media for the bias that it shows, and I think that's what's important for people to understand is that Trump didn't really do anything. He just kind of exposed everything for what it was, and I think that's been a good thing, but it's a bad thing.
It kind of ended up going way out of hand too, because they just kind of ramped it up even more. Because I mean, let's face it, the left thought they were going to win the election. They thought they had this thing signed, sealed, delivered, and so you kind of get. in a panic when all of a sudden, oh shit, this plan's not going according to our plan.
Right.
And now we've got to ramp everything up even more. We got to magnify it even more. We got to like spend every news story we've got telling the entire country how racist this guy is.
Right.
So that way the rest of those people, we don't, it's not like the mainstream media went to Jussie and said, hey, listen, we're going to need you to set up this fake thing. Here's where the cameras are. I mean, could have. I'm not saying they did.
I don't put anything past anybody anymore at this point.
What it is, you have a whole bunch of people that are kind of on the same page and know what to do.
Right.
Like, you don't have to tell your troops who the enemy is. Obviously you don't have to specifically, exclusively say that to each person, each individual troop. Once you kind of spell it out, hey, this guy's evil. Oh, hey, this guy's evil. Oh, by the way, this guy's really evil. People start to get the picture and they figure out what they need to do.
Yeah, I just, and the thing that kind of I was thinking about too is that what is possessing people to want to do this? What in your heart and in your mind to bring yourself to a point to where you know that your status as a celebrity is so big, if you roll with this, the consequences of what's going to happen, and you're okay with that. You're okay with racially dividing a country entirely, because I'm telling you, this was huge. And I don't think people quite understand the ramifications it would have had, if the story was true.
Yeah, luckily there was a lot of prevailing minds out there that was able to point out the bullshit,
right,
and call it out and point out the inconsistencies in his story and say, listen, if I had something like that happen to me, I would want my phone to be checked. Like I would be
right,
like, yeah, here's my call log. This is who I was talking to. Like, but he was like, no, I can't.
Well, okay. So as a Democrat and somebody that is not a Trump supporter and just hates Trump on all different levels, when you see a situation like this, I just wonder if people actually just kind of sit back, look at the situation, and draw your own conclusions.
I don't think so. Based on what we saw with Covington Catholic and that whole situation.
Well, how many times
people will
situations
automatically go with their gut instinct right off the bat? They'll automatically go with their initial emotional reaction. They'll see something, oh, that's terrible. Retweet. Keyboard warrior, bang those keys. And then when the rest of it comes out, then they have a choice. That's when they actually stop and step back, I think, is now we have a choice. Okay, we can go ahead and double down on this to pretend like I've been right the whole time.
Right.
Or we can actually stop and maybe I messed up. Maybe I went overboard.
But how many
people delete their
right? But how many situations are we going to have like this where people are going to stop automatically assuming that this is the truth?
Oh man,
until
it's
facts come
just
out.
going to keep happening. It's going to keep happening. People are not that bright on the whole. People are not that. They lead with their emotions first, and like the whole social media
we've talked
atmosphere
about that before.
has gotten people set up where they're just like ready to react rather than think. There's no thinking going on.
Well,
very little.
And I think that's the situation with Trump supporters is that we don't pay no mind to situations like this because we have a very hard time believing it.
And
we're
the
a
thinking.
demographic that doesn't. Well, we're a demographic which I think people who don't support Trump don't seem to quite understand is that we're just hardworking Americans that want to be left alone and provide for our families and protect our rights.
Yeah, I think that's most people.
That's it.
And when it comes to thinking, though, like I said, I don't think there's a lot of thinking going on. And the people that are doing the thinking,
right,
for the most part, are either trying to calm the storm or they're trying to, fan the flames. You got those people like at each other.
Well, when I originally first heard the story, I kind of a lot of it didn't make sense. So, and of course, it really didn't make any headway in the political spectrum. It really didn't take off the way I think that, that he wanted it to. And, originally it started off with the letter. And, yeah, you had a few people tweet about it on Twitter, and that was it. But there was no significant outcry support that he was looking for.
Yeah.
So it made me kind of wonder the motives behind this. Was it because the show wasn't doing well? Was it because he's a gay black man, or was it because
there ain't no telling? I don't try to pretend to mind read. All I know.
Well,
is
no,
the
it's
facts.
not that. It's just you really. It's very disturbing to know that there's people out there, and this isn't the first situation. There has been many hoax that have happened over the last 2 years of people wanting to paint Trump supporters as these vile individuals.
Yeah, speaking of, you mentioning that, before I click over to the video, as Harry says, it is worse. He's trying to start shit that nobody wants. Who actually wants race relations to deteriorate? I've never met anybody that thinks, oh, well, we should probably deteriorate race relations.
I would probably say in America in itself, there's a good population. I mean, I don't know the statistics, but I can tell you right now, your average Trump supporter doesn't want racial conflict.
Or they're not even, it's not even on their top 10 of their list, even
No.
if they do.
No, and that's what I'm saying. It goes back to, you know, the base of Trump supporters. If you're not educated about his core audience, is that we just want to work, provide for our families, be left alone, and protect our constitutional rights.
I almost wonder if we need to go ahead and invite Harry into the show here. He's got a lot to say tonight. So remember, guys, some elements of the media want this to be true, and he said that in all caps. Yeah, I kind of get what you're saying, man. It might be. You might be absolutely right. So let me play a brief video here.
Yeah.
This is a partial list of hate crime hoaxes that I was listening to. Stefan Molyneux was talking about in a presentation about this very incident. If you want to check that out, I'll make sure to leave the link in the description. At any rate, let me see, and we're gonna hit the correct button. Yeah. Oh, there it is. And I need it at 14 minutes and 43 seconds. I don't have my producer here tonight, so bear with me, folks. All right.
If that makes any sense.
So check this out.
So this is from Andingo. And just wanted to point out that there have been a lot of these. I'll just run through this. The list literally goes on and on, but just a couple of ones here. Right after Donald Trump's election, the SPLC really stoked panic. A pro-gay Episcopal church in Indiana was vandalized with Heil Trump, a swastika, and an anti-gay slur. Turns out it was the gay organ player who did it. He was only charged with a misdemeanor. Days after the Pittsburgh massacre, Trump supporters were blamed for Nazi vandalism at a Brooklyn synagogue and fires in a Jewish community. Turns out the perpetrator was a gay black man who had worked with city council on an initiative to fight hate crimes. Huh.
The irony of that.
I think it's effective.
1 week before the presidential election, a black church in Mississippi was burned in an arson attack. Vote Trump was written on the building. After much panic, an investigation revealed that the man responsible was a church member, Andrew McClinton, a black guy for those who are just listening. November 2016, a Muslim student at the University of Louisiana said 2 white racist Trump supporters brutally assaulted her, ripped off her hijab, and robbed her. The story went viral.
I remember that one.
It was a lie. The media never identified her by name after the hoax was revealed. I remember that Trump and his supporters were blamed for a spate of anti-Semitic KKK and Nazi graffiti on the campus of Nassau Community College in Long Island in late 2016. The student responsible was Jasgirit Saini. Indian guy, I think. I don't know. Hard to tell. In December 2016, a Muslim woman said she was attacked by 3 white Trump supporters in New York City on the subway. She said they tried to rip off her hijab. Yasmin Seweed lied. CARE, Council of American Islamic Relations, said Muslims are under tremendous stress and pressure resulting in incidents like this. Yeah, of course, that you're going to say, well, you know, this story may have been false, but it's indicative of a deeper truth. Yeah, right. September 2018, a black woman in Long Island said Trump supporters confronted her and told her she didn't belong here. Her car tire was slashed the next day and a hateful note was left behind saying, "Go home." Well, that makes sense. How can she go home if her car tire is slashed? Adwoa Lewis made up the whole story. November 2018, students at Goucher College demanded social justice training in safe spaces after racist, Nazi, and KKK graffiti was found on campus. Someone even wrote the names of black students. Trump was blamed. Finn Arthur, a black student, was responsible. 2017, St. Olaf College was roiled by mass protests in response to anti-black notes found across campus. Class was cancelled, and admin caved to demands. An investigation found that Samantha Wells, a black victim of one of the notes, fabricated the incident. In November 2016, a Philadelphia neighborhood was rattled when property was vandalized with pro-Trump and anti-black messages. William Tucker, a black man, was identified as the vandal through CCTV footage. Yeah, you know, if America was such a racist place, why would you need to fake all this stuff?
Yeah. So there's that. And that was just the short list that he got started with. You know, this was a small part of a bigger presentation, and very well done, by the way. So
this is one of the reasons why now, when people come at me and tell me that Trump is a racist and his base is racist, I literally look at people and I'm like, if you look at this list, if you listen to this list, and you understand the level of hate that's coming from people that hate Trump, you're fabricating your own story just to elevate, your purpose of wanting to further your agenda, and that's just to change people's minds. The only problem is that the blowback to this has been so severe now. When are people going to actually start to realize that this isn't the actual situation of which you were thinking that, Trump supporters and Trump himself is being racist? I mean, if you look at the demographic of the people doing this, mostly black people.
Yeah.
So I've gotten to the point now, man, where it's not even worth the argument with black people. It's not even worth the argument with anti-Trump supporters. Your IQ level has seriously dropped in America. I told people this, and I'm sure I probably got some bad feedback, but when you equate Trump supporters and you sit there and you throw them in the realm of the kind of people that they are, would be no different than me telling you the only reasons why you voted for Obama is because he was black. And I hate to say it, but it's true. I guarantee you, deep down, probably for most black people, the only reasons why you even voted for Obama is because he was black. Had nothing to do with his policies, had nothing to do with the way he talked. It had everything to do with the fact that you want to stick it to the white man.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And these are still black people that want to stick it to the white man. What are you doing here? You are exposing the fact that you are the one with the problems, not white people.
It's amazing the power of in-group preference. We're raised, or not even raised. We have evolved as tribal species, man.
Right.
I mean, we sit there from the beginning of time. We're kind of, it was ingrained in us, and even on a genetic level, to the point we need to breed with our tribe. We need to protect our tribe. We need to, get along with our tribe. Otherwise, risk death. And so we kind of get this in-group preference where everything on the outside is bad and everything on the inside is good. Like that's just a basic human nature, And then you get all these damn hate crimes constantly popping up all the time. It's like,
well,
obviously, the narrative is that whitey's bad. White men in America, basically Western civilization as a whole, is just terrible.
Right.
But what nobody's talking about is that there's still slavery going on in the Muslim nations right now. Right now.
Yeah.
You can go to Libya and buy a slave for $400 on the open air market. They are not even trying to hide it.
Right.
But it's much more of a financial incentive, because to guilt white men into, feeling guilty about slavery, because we'll pay for it.
Right.
We tend to pay to make things go away. We don't want to feel that guilt. I feel like I'm doing a horrible job explaining what I'm trying to get on this.
No, I understand what you're saying. I mean, it's no different than feminism. They're pushing for third wave feminism here in the U.S. when cultures like, over in Iraq and Afghanistan and, the Middle East in general, when you really want to push third wave feminism, you need to do it over there, not here, because it's not an issue here.
Exactly. Why pick on the one place where you have it better than any? Like, blacks in the United States have it way better than any other country in the entire world right now.
And I also find that it's also one of those situations too where I think black people are finding any reason to feel like they're still oppressed. You're not.
Yeah.
There's nothing to signify anything different other than the fact that you are playing the victim card. How much longer? And it's not just with black people, but it's all demographics. I mean, why are people continuously playing the victim card? You're going to get ahead more in life by pursuing the opportunities that are laid before you than walking around talking, oh, man, the white man's got me down. No, we don't have you down. You as an individual have yourself down because of the way your dogmatic view of this whole situation about life and in general.
I think it's even worse than that. I mean, I do really empathize for what say I'm a black kid coming up in the hood, and all I'm hearing from everybody that's older than me is how terrible the police are, how bad white people are. The only reason we're struggling right now is because white man bad, orange man bad. That's all I'm hearing.
It's not
so you grow up with a mentality of, well, shit, like, I feel powerlessness. I feel completely powerless to change my situation.
Right.
Like, I'm a minority in a country full of people that hate me. Like, why would I even try? Like that's hugely crushing on the soul just to be growing up with that.
But who ingrains that into your mind? Is it the television you're watching, the people that you surround yourself with,
the general culture around you,
your family that you're upbringing in? And I mean, this is where I feel like, you know, you want to sit there and use the hood as an excuse, and you want to talk about your race as, you know, is problematic because you can't get the job that you want. No, I mean, it's been proven time and time again with athletes and with celebrities and, you know, now politicians that you can achieve anything that you want to do. It's there for your, you know, for your reach.
Yeah, it's much better to have them all dependent on the government, where they're going to continue to vote. They're able to vote even though they take welfare benefits, and the left wants them there.
But I love the fact
that it's never spoken
right
out loud. I mean, it comes up in situations like this where you see a bunch of hate crimes coming out. It's like the Democrats are like, yeah, keep doing that. We love this. We're going to keep reporting that as if it's true. We need you guys to be dependent on us.
Well, and I often tell people,
it's to be fair, it's not just the left. It's government in general.
Well, it's government in general.
Benefits from just completely benefits from having a dependent underclass,
right,
who's willing to vote for them no matter what.
Right. You know, and something, and I'll just kind of say this to wrap it up, but, you know, I kind of use the analogy or preference of when you look through a keyhole, you're seeing what's directly in front of you. You're not seeing what's in the rest of the room entirely. Okay, so if you're looking through a keyhole and you see a woman sitting in a chair, you can think a million things. You can see a woman sitting in a chair. But what you don't see behind that door and past that keyhole is the fact that she could be in a production doing a TV show. She could be kidnapped and she's sitting there because she might lose her life. You don't know until you open that door. Mm-hmm. So until you open that door and you open up your eyes and your thought process and your perspective to see that there's a bigger picture here than what you see through that keyhole, you're always going to look at life through that keyhole until you're willing to step through and open that door and see that there's a bigger world than what you're being shown.
Yeah, that keyhole being your limited view on reality, your limited perception.
Exactly.
It's almost as if we're asking people to unframe their mind, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell black people that are just dead set on anti-Trump and just will not give the man any kind of leeway. It's like you're looking through this keyhole. Your perception of everything else around you is very limited because you're not willing to look.
Is it a roughly CNN-shaped keyhole?
It could be.
Just about.
You know, so... But that's just kind of a way to explain, I guess, the current situation that we're in, and hopefully, you know, I really hate this for the gay community, for the black community, what's going on right now. To me, this is a setback, but I also hope that this has been a big lesson learned from everybody. So, you know, the media and celebrities and government officials don't jump the gun and automatically assume that something is real until all facts have been presented.
You would think we'd learn our lesson by now.
And I really hope that this one really stands out and really sticks to everybody. Yeah. And you're just
it is going to be a strong beacon that we can keep pointing back to, and as a strong example that a lot more people know about than, you know, say any of these other ones that we saw. We might have heard some of those that we played on the video,
right?
But this one here, like, you ain't gonna find somebody that ain't heard this one. Like,
with
rare exception.
This one's
it's going to be a great shining beacon.
It is.
All right, so moving on to this next section, I had a video I was watching about the Dunning-Kruger effect. It was actually a really well done video illustrating what the Dunning-Kruger effect was, but I didn't exactly agree with the angle he was taking and the way he chose to present it, but it was pretty well done. At any rate, it was just to be clear, the Dunning-Kruger effect is a field of psychology. In the field of psychology, the Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias in which people of low ability have illusory superiority and mistakenly assesses their cognitive ability as greater than it is. All right. The cognitive bias of illusory superiority comes from the inability of low ability people to recognize their lack of ability. Without the self-awareness of metacognition, low ability people cannot objectively evaluate their competence or incompetence. So basically the idea is people who are not very intelligent have a tendency to, or they don't know a lot, they tend to overestimate how much they actually know on a given subject.
Right.
Whereas people who are really well educated on a subject tend to downplay it because they know that they don't know a lot of things, and it's like an IQ test, so to speak. Anyway,
that's the one thing I can honestly say on this show, that if I don't know anything about it and you're you are more educated on the topic than I am. Educate me and the rest of the audience, because we'd all like to know. But if I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm up to par and I've got all the facts in front of me.
God,
to
no!
understand
I don't want to do that either.
That would make for a shitty show.
It's like
and
I'm
going to
sit here and pretend I know a lot of things about a lot of things, and I know this and I know that. Look, I don't know shit, man. I'm just a guy working a daytime job, raising a family, and trying to keep up with this whole societal cultural shift, and trying to educate people about it. I do enjoy doing it, but Jesus, man, it's a lot, and I cannot possibly, even in the limited. I mean, even if I had full 24 hours a day, could I keep up with all this? It's insane. Anyway, that's not really what I want to talk about. What I was more interested in was a comment thread that was under that YouTube video, and the comment was from a guy named himself Adam Troy Castro. That was an interesting choice of last name. Now I don't know if that's his real name or not, but basically,
I hope not.
Here's the basic premise here. He says, an anguished question from a Trump supporter. Quote, why do liberals think Trump supporters are stupid? End quote. The serious answer? Here's what we really think about Trump supporters. The rich, the poor, the malignant, and the innocently well-meaning. The ones who think and the ones who don't. We think that when you saw a man, this is what I want to do. I want to attack this point by point as best as we can. We're not going to be able to combat each one of these because we probably don't know the fuller story behind it. But this is basically a laundry list of all the reasons that people think Trump supporters are stupid. All right. So the first one, that when you saw a man who owned a fraudulent university intent on scamming poor people, you thought, fine. So that was the Trump University. Thing. What did you think about that?
I honestly...
Did you think it was fine?
Well, no, it's not that I thought it was fine. I just really didn't pay it much of attention because it didn't have anything to do with me or my life or... I mean, I don't know. That was before he was even a politician. So, there was a lot of things that either had in the works or he lied about or he said that either weren't true or were fabricated. And, Trump did a lot of things that I don't agree with before he got elected in office. There is, but as far as the university thing, that doesn't really
that always struck me as one of the many tries that failed. I mean, if you're going to be successful, you have to try a lot of shit.
But that's why he is successful. It's because he tried so many different things.
Failed at some. Yes, failed at some.
It's a famous quote from Michael Jordan. It's you're going to fail more than you are going to succeed.
I like the way he characterized it as a fraudulent university intent on scamming poor people. Now that's a pretty bold claim when you don't have the facts to back it up. I would be interested to see what the facts are that back up that actually prove that this was in fact a fraudulent university and it was intent on scamming poor people. I mean, not just intent on scamming people, but specifically poor people. Like, I don't know.
I have a hard time believing Trump doing that when he would want to make that university for the elites.
Well, I see a lot of these.
It makes sense,
I don't want to spend too much on each point because I've got 3 pages worth of them. But
holy shit! Let's go to the next one.
Yeah. So the next one, let's see. That when you saw a man who made his business practice to stiff his creditors, you said, "Okay." Made it his business practice to stiff his creditors.
Do you realize that probably most Trump supporters don't know the history of his business background? I mean, I don't. I don't think it's really relevant.
I don't know, but I mean, when they're what his point is when they are confronted with this fact or this, we'll just loosely use the term fact here because I don't know. When they're presented with this information, rather, that they just say, "Well, that's okay. That doesn't bother me." I mean, I don't know.
This was all stuff before he was ever a politician. It's never anything that he introduced or tried to do when he was in office.
I mean, that's not really a great argument because I mean, we look at everybody, before they become president or even politician to see whether they're fit for office. And this was just one reason. If they're willing to stiff the creditors, then he would be willing to stiff the taxpayers.
Right.
I could understand where that comes from if that's true.
Yeah.
But he's saying, if they hear that, say it's fine. Now,
basically, the logic that he used over the years in his businesses and practices, why wouldn't he incorporate that while he's in office? Yeah, I get what he's saying.
If true, if true, I could totally understand this. But
Right.
I mean, when you're presenting this to a hardcore Trump supporter, some of these people look at him like the God Emperor. It's ridiculous.
But most Trump supporters, again, don't care about this.
Yeah,
and I
they
named
don't
off
care
the
about
reasons
that.
as to
They
why
care
he was
about
elected in
what
office.
what he can do for you, what he says he can do for you versus the other guy, more than anything.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on. Let's see. That when you heard him proudly brag about his own history of sexual abuse, you said, no problem. All right, to be fair, that's when he says, grab him by the pussy. That is the whole thing about that. And that thing drives me bonkers, man, that they keep bringing this shit up. And if you listen to the damn video, he says they let you grab them by the pussy. It was some really, like they called it locker room talk.
Yeah.
You and I have talked this way.
Yeah.
This is not anything outside of
Probably
normal.
98% of men
This is
talk
this
way.
is like normal blue collar type, blue humor. Like this is just how we talk sometimes. We make stupid ass jokes. Most of them sexual, and hell, since the damn 90s, since we can't make sexual jokes toward women, now they've all turned toward gay sexual jokes toward each other. Now I've noticed.
I used to use the term gay. Oh, that's gay, or
just being funny.
That's just don't be gay about that.
But that's not bragging about your sexual abuse. Like, I'm sorry, it's just not. He's just stating a fact. Like, hey, I'm in this position. These women will let me do whatever they want to.
And I guarantee you, as a man
himself, saying I'm going to do whatever I want to these women, and I did whatever I wanted to these women, and I did it against their will.
Right, but I guarantee you, as a man himself, has probably said something similar, if not far worse, than what he's trying to present in that case. That's why I just don't listen to these people anymore, man.
All right, that when he made up stories about seeing Muslim Americans in the thousands cheering the destruction of the World Trade Center, you said not an issue. Yeah, I've heard about that. I have no idea. How do you even prove that? I mean, because let's say you go around New York City and you ask all of the Muslims in New York City that were there during the time, did you stand up and cheer when the World Trade Center went down? Are you gonna, in your fucking right mind, say, oh yeah, I did that?
Well, how did we go from 9/11 to electing Muslims now into office? Trojan horse is making its way through.
Probably Trump's fault. Probably Trump's fault. So that when you saw him brag that he could shoot a man on Fifth Avenue and you wouldn't care, you chirped, he sure knows me.
Oh, talking about the comment he made as far as he could get away with killing somebody.
Yeah, I could shoot a man in the middle of Fifth Avenue and get away with it. And my voters wouldn't care.
How many politicians have done pay to play or actually,
Yeah, see,
people
now,
have
on that point, I'm really
disappeared out of nowhere.
I'm really curious how many, by today's standards, that sounds extreme, but think about this historically. Like, how many of these dictators or charismatic leaders would sit there and have such a strong following they could do whatever they wanted to and get away with it? And I think again, figure of speech, hyperbole, saying I could do ridiculous, outlandish things and my voters would still vote for me.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's braggadocious, sure.
It's not smart to say, though. I will
like,
say
but
that.
this is all things he's saying. It gets
pretty extensive. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not going to read all of them because we're running out of time and there's a lot of them. But so he say, when you saw him mock the disabled, you thought it was the funniest thing you ever saw.
He wasn't mocking the disabled. We've been through this time and time again.
Was not mocking the disabled.
This is one of the reasons why I totally ignore individuals like this. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. Your sticking points. We've had these discussions.
This guy sits there and adds. I bet you he's got a document. He just adds every time something new comes up. Just adds to the list. Never goes back and double checks.
But you don't think Trump supporters didn't do that about Obama?
Oh yeah, but never goes back and double checks and makes sure. Oh well, maybe this one's pushing. Anyway, far as him mocking a disabled guy,
right.
We did a video about that. No, I don't even remember if it was a video or not. But I've talked about this quite a bit, and I actually shut down conversation pretty quick when I presented multiple cases where he was doing the exact same movement, but it had nothing to do with a disabled guy.
Yeah.
I think he did it to Ted Cruz was one example.
He did.
Like this is. Oh well, maybe he thinks Ted Cruz is disabled. Maybe that's the case. People are so sensitive, man. So when you heard him brag that he doesn't read books, you said, "Well, who has the time?" I don't care. I really don't care.
I don't even read books. I do audiobooks.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't have time to sit down and read. I really don't. Not with my schedule.
That's
the way
not
that
a
it
make or
is.
breaker. Come on, man.
No,
That doesn't mean you're stupid or you suffer from the Dunning-Kruger effect. Good Lord. Anyway, let me see. Let me scan here and grab another one. Let's see.
It really goes to show the IQ level in the United States. It really does. It shows why we rank where we do in education and so many different factors, man. People are just stupid here. Stupid.
So, that Trump separated children from their families and put them in cages, managed to lose track of 1,500 kids, has opened a tent city incarceration camp in the desert in Texas. He explains that they're just animals, and you say, well, okay then. Like, this is so thick full of propaganda bullshit that he's been fed by CNN.
The only thing that he ever discussed when he was talking or made the reference about animals was the gang MS-13.
MS-13. Who are, I would argue, is fucking animals. Yes. The way they treat people, the way they conduct their business.
And you listen to the interview or the segment that was discussed between him and a sheriff, what you didn't see or what you didn't hear was the question that was posed by the sheriff that asked Trump what he thought of the gang MS-13. That is when the only thing you saw that the media clipped was that they were animals, talking about immigrants. Trump has not separated families at the borders. This has been going on for a long time.
Yep.
Obama was the one that had them in their supposed cages and rooms. I did a story about this on Facebook, which got me banned for 3 days.
And the pictures that they were showing about kids in cages actually came from Obama era.
Yes, and it's not to. And hang on a second, I'm not trying to blame Obama for all this. I'm just trying to understand and to get people to understand this came from a different time.
Yeah, it's all the media spin on it too. Though.
Right.
They're so desperate to put the shit on Trump, and people like this buy it. And
but to be clear, this isn't me going after Obama or his tenure in office.
Right.
This is to tell you the time frame in which this took place. If you're going to accuse Trump of all these things, you need to understand that there were certain things that happened that were not a part of his tenure as president.
And also, even if they were still going on during the first portion of his presidency, it's not like you get into office and immediately everything changes and everything's your fault.
Everything is a process.
Yeah, it's a transition. It's a constant flow.
And we also talk about that with the economy as well. Now, when you are 2 years removed from your presidency, as Obama is, and you're still claiming, credible reputation of making the economy what it is today, no. Now, given the first year, yes, you probably had some influence on the way the economy is going. But after that year, it starts to cycle into the new presidency, which has now been Trump. Trump has been responsible for the way the economy is. You and I have been watching the economy, and it's not doing well. It does look good on paper at the moment, but it's not. And, I digress to say that if you've got any kind of stocks, if you've got any kind of involvement in the market, be very careful and be very vital with what you invest in.
So let me finish. I'm going to read the rest of this to finish this out. This was his final closing points. And the irony of all this is this was put under a video about the Dunning-Kruger effect, and this guy doesn't even notice the irony.
There's so much of it.
Anyway, so that you witnessed all the 1,001 other manifestations of corruption and low moral character and outright animalistic rudeness and contempt for you, the working American voter, and you still show up grinning and wearing your MAGA hats and threatening to beat up anyone who says otherwise. What you don't get, Trump supporters of 2019, is that succumbing to frustration and thinking of you as stupid may be wrong and unhelpful, but it's also, hear me, charitable. Because if you're not stupid, we must turn to other explanations, and most of them are less flattering. Again, Adam Troy Castro.
Again, that goes back to what I discussed
earlier. So he tried to set up a case. Like, if this was a structured argument and he's trying to make a proof of something here.
He didn't prove anything. I'm
saying
arrogant and out of touch.
I'm saying if this was a proof and he was putting forward all these points, like every single one of his premises were incorrect or very, very stretched, for
lack of a better word.
Yeah, and then you spend all that time with incorrect premises. You end with a conclusion that says, basically, if I don't call you stupid,
Right.
I'm being charitable by calling you stupid, because otherwise I have to just assume you're a racist. I have to assume you're a bigot. I have to assume you're a misogynist.
Homophobic.
Islamophobic. I have to assume you're all of these things. Like, that is like such an incredible, like, I don't even know what to say about that. Like, this is the reason we have all this shit going on lately, is because of laundry lists of bullshit that they use to support
misinterpretation of Trump
point.
supporters is so outlandish and it's so ridiculous that I would almost challenge the hardcore anti-Trump supporter to engage in dialogue or conversation in a reasonable manner, not one where they're screaming and yelling.
Like,
and have discussions and open your mind to that.
Most of these major channels that sit there, they'll invite these people on. They don't want to talk. They will not talk. It's
well,
like,
I mean, what is it going to take then? Because if you're not willing to talk, if you're willing to just ignore the simple fact of what we're trying to discuss with you, then if I'm willing to extend my hand out to shake yours and you refuse to because of who I am and what I believe in, well, you don't know the full story. Get to know me. Get to know me as an individual. Why did you vote for Trump? What was it about Trump? Okay,
well,
now tell me some things you don't like about him.
If we don't solve this problem with words, all that's going to happen is we're going to add an S to that word. Now we're going to be fighting with swords. That's basically all that's going to be happening.
And this is something I thought about earlier. You keep poking a bear, and eventually at some point that bear is going to fight back.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hate to say this, and I've kind of bounced around with this idea. You kind of hear every once in a while the term, civil war, and there's going to be some repercussions for what's going on. And
right.
For people who ever see this video, if you are not a Trump supporter, be careful when you poke this bear, because at some point this Republican Party will fight back.
Yeah,
we have kept our composure. We have been tried to be very understanding of people who are not Trump supporters. We've tried to hear your dialogue. We try to reach out to you and talk to you, but you refuse.
Look throughout history and what happens when you sit there and keep antagonizing Western Europeans.
Right.
We're usually really, really, really nice until we're really, really not.
And I'm going to tell you,
you see situations like World War II, World War I, the Civil War. Like, we will throw down if necessary.
This would not bode well for the left if they want to keep going down this avenue with these hoax and these false allegations of this whole Me Too movement with Kavanaugh, with racial profiling and these hoax. And I'm telling you, Daniel, and I'm telling the audience that if this bear is continuously kept poked at, you're gonna ask for a bigger repercussion than you can ever imagine. And the problem I have with this is that the left is going to look at us like, oh my God, they're so crazy now. Well,
no, it'll be their opportunity to go, oh, see, they're violent. We knew it.
But that's one of the reasons why
violent.
We have been so good about just keeping our composure. Mm-hmm. Just like Nick Sandmann did when he's standing at the Lincoln Memorial and he's keeping his composure.
And even that wasn't enough. Even that was enough.
Like,
but what do you want us to do?
The media is going to get what it wants. The anti-Trump supporters are going to get what they want. But by that time, it's going to be too late to even try to have a civil and
right.
cordial discussion with us, because we're tired of it. The population of the Trump supporters, as I've mentioned before, we just want to go to work. We want to take care of our family. We don't want problems.
Yeah.
But you're creating problems that aren't necessarily there. And when you keep doing that and you keep throwing the shit in our face, there's going to be blowback, and it's not going to be the blowback that you want. I'm telling you, dude, it's going to be bad. I mean, it is.
I hope
it doesn't get to that point. I hope it doesn't escalate to that point. But with this situation, with this current hoax,
mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, man, it's just you kind of feel that pivotal, that tipping point. Is this going to die down, or is this going to really just kind of heighten everybody else to want to fire back? People should be very careful.
Yeah. So to finish up our show tonight, I wanted to talk about one of the reasons why they have to, like, housing prices need to stay up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We had 2008 happen. We all understood, at least people who were paying attention, we understood that it had to do with the housing market crash.
Right.
Just people could not afford to stay in their homes anymore. Massive foreclosures, huge impact to our economy. So there's a number of things going on that I've been kind of pondering over and learning about at the same time. Let me read this article here by Peter Schiff, or about Peter Schiff, one or the other. So this is from seekingalpha.com. We're headed for a train wreck in this country because of the national debt, and nobody seems concerned. Just because we haven't suffered a crisis yet based on this debt doesn't mean that one isn't coming. On Friday, President Trump declared a national emergency based on that declaration. The president will reallocate $6.5 billion from other government programs to fund a border wall. In his podcast on Friday, Peter Schiff said there is indeed a national emergency, but it has nothing to do with the border. Quote, of course, the real national emergency is not the lack of a wall, the failure to build a wall, but building up the national debt, end quote. Just last week, the U.S. Treasury said that the national debt has eclipsed the $22 trillion mark. I'm going to say that again. The national debt has eclipsed the $22 trillion mark. All right? It's a number that's literally unfathomable to most folks.
Yeah.
That's a huge number.
It was 19 when Trump took office, wasn't it?
Breathtaking. Yeah, it keeps, and the rate at which it is climbing is continuing to increase.
Yeah.
Okay. This is doesn't left or right, it doesn't matter. They have to keep spending. If they don't keep spending, we're fucked. But I'd rather be fucked now than be fucked even worse later at 30 trillion, you know? So when President Trump took office in January 2017, the debt was 19.95 trillion.
Okay, so it was almost 20.
That's a 2.06 trillion increase in the debt in just over 2 years. That's $1 trillion per year. Okay? And as Peter pointed out, this is just the tip of a huge iceberg. Quote, this is just a funded portion of the debt. This is where the U.S. government sells a bond and somebody owns that bond. It doesn't include liabilities like what the government owes for Social Security or guaranteed bank deposits or mortgages or student loans or all that nonsense. That's not there. Those are contingent liabilities. They're just as real. They're not even part of the national debt.
Can you imagine if someone like Bernie Sanders is now running for 2020 takes office?
Yeah.
With the socialist mindset.
Yeah, and the modern monetary theory that we've been learning about from our
holy shit
from our progressive friends we've been speaking with.
Wow.
So Peter said, too bad Trump doesn't want to do anything about that crisis. Quote, we are headed for a train wreck in this country because of the national debt. What Trump has been building while he hasn't been building a wall is he's been building up the size of government, and he's been building up the deficits that have been necessary to finance that government buildup, end quote. And yet nobody seems concerned. The president didn't even mention the debt in the State of the Union address. I didn't even notice that. He really didn't, did he? No. Yeah, wow. That's actually, I would argue, the biggest threat for us right now. But according to a tweet by ABC White House correspondent Tara Palmieri, when asked if Trump was going to talk about the deficit, the president's chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, said, nobody cares.
I mean, honestly, how many people actually care? Do you care?
I care a lot. I care a lot. I mean, I don't care that he didn't talk about it. A lot of people claim that we don't really need to worry about the debt because, after all, it's been growing for years and nothing's happened. Like, what the fuck, man?
But it's true.
Like, nothing's happened yet. Might as well keep on going.
I mean...
it's like a game of chicken where you're starting out 50 miles apart. We're at mile 30. Just driving as fast as we can. Ain't nothing happened yet. Might as well keep going.
Well, and this has been the same talking point that we've seen, you know, from politicians since the 90s. Hell, even since the 80s. And nothing has come from it.
All right, so in this podcast, Peter also covered some more negative economic news, Fed news, including the fact that the Fed is now talking about using quantitative easing more readily, and the fact that the mainstream doesn't know what's going on. It's like a deer in the headlights. Peter Schiff, quoting Peter Schiff, they said, "You know what happens eventually to the deer in the headlights? He gets hit by the car and he dies." Oh my God.
I think they're just, and we've kind of alluded to this in previous shows, that there needs to be nothing more than a reset done in this country.
It's terrifying.
Seriously.
It's fucking terrifying.
It is terrifying. I mean,
ignoring it's not going to make it go away.
Well, I'm not saying that you're ignoring it.
No,
but
not me.
No. I'm just saying in general.
You leave me out of this.
My question is what are we going to do? I mean, now that we're playing around with entertaining the idea of socialism is scary as shit.
Let me see if I can make sense of my notes here because I typed these up in a hurry.
Cool.
So basically, people, for years, people have been investing in these huge houses because they were lied to. They were told that these homes are assets. Most people think their homes are assets. They are not.
No.
Up until your house is up and until your house is making you money, you have a liability, not an asset.
I had 2 at one time.
People have also been told that Medicare would be there. It isn't.
No.
It never was.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so what I'm thinking is housing prices need to stay high right now.
Right.
They have to stay high. That's why all the spending is going on.
Yeah.
That's why we're so invested in still bringing over more immigrants, legal and illegal, because it kind of artificially pumps up the need for housing. That's why we're paying so much money in welfare benefits to encourage more people to come. That's like the unspoken thing about this whole thing, and it's driving me nuts. Like
nobody ever talks about that.
Everybody's talking around it.
We're talking about it. We're like the only ones. I feel like we're out in this pasture by ourselves discussing, into the wind.
So this big bill that Trump signed, this is kind of where I'm headed with this. I think there's a reason why he went ahead and signed it, as stupid as it was, even though the Dems were sitting there sneaking in these ridiculous terms that are guarantee amnesty for folks. It also what was it? Sneaks in and the restrictions on the wall where he can build the wall. They say you can only build here, but you have to do it with the permission of the mayor of that town or whatever.
Or
and it just so happens, or it just so happens that the mayors of those towns happen to be anti-Trump liberals. Mm-hmm. Like it's like, okay, you can only build here, but if you got their permission, well, you're not going to get their permission. No wall. It ain't going to happen.
Right.
But he went ahead and signed it anyway. And I think part of this is because he knows. He's not talking about the national debt because nobody cares. He's not talking about the national debt because to call attention to it would put people in a panic.
Yep.
And the fact that
he would lose his funding for the wall.
Well, it's not even that. I think he's really afraid of basically you don't want the housing crash to happen during your first term.
No.
If you're going to have a second term, if it's going to happen, you'd prefer it happened after you were already elected. Yeah. So right now we're sitting here passing these dumb bills, running up all these expenses, all this extra debt in an effort to kind of keep inflating the bubble and keep it at its limits right now.
I told you, something's going to happen. Either all this shit's going to come ahead before 2020 or Trump's going to get reelected.
And then it's going to happen.
And then it's going to happen.
Right.
So it's one or two is eventually going to give way. This bubble is going to pop. And it's just a matter of time. It doesn't matter if it has been Trump in office, if it was Obama, if it was Bush, if it was Clinton. Well, everybody has had to deal with something at some point during their tenure of president. This just so happens to be what's going on with Trump.
There's another layer to this, too.
I know.
It is the fact that Americans on a whole aren't keeping pace with the replacement birth rates that are necessary to keep the country going.
Right.
That's another reason we got to bring in immigrants to replace the tax-paying system, or basically all the taxpayers that are. It's like a pyramid scheme.
Right.
So for all these entitlement programs to work, you got to have taxpayers that are paying taxes to pay. I think as it started out, I please correct me where I'm wrong because I know I'm going to get this wrong.
Right.
But the basic gist was that when Medicare first started, it was supposed to be like 7 taxpayers to every 1 person that was on Medicare or something like that, because the retirement age was, you actually did kind of die after you retired within a few years.
Right. Well, that's why they keep up in the retirement age.
Yeah, they have to up their retirement age. And now you got, right now, I think it's around more like 3 to every 1.
Well, because you got baby boomers that are retiring.
Yeah, it's a lot, and you can't, like, the replacement rates aren't there. People aren't having babies. People were told forever, we're overpopulating the earth. We need to quit having babies. So now we're bringing in immigrants to try to fill the blank, and it's not going to work because they're not the same thing.
Do you think that's one of the reasons why abortion is kind of been the popular thing here lately?
And I don't. I think that's just.
Do you think there's part of that? It's just the way to control the population.
Gosh, I don't know. I feel like
because China can control the population without having to do abortions.
Are you kidding me?
Well,
they had a one-child policy. People were killing their babies en masse.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But I mean,
like that's probably way worse.
Well, yeah, no, it is way worse. But I mean, it's kind of running up there along the lines of what currently is going on in our own country. I mean,
as far as the abortion issue.
It's population control. I don't think it's all cases, but I think in some cases that it is. Why would you even introduce a bill that would say that now they're welcoming a 3rd trimester abortion? Like,
I feel like I'm about to throw out a bullshit number, but I do remember reading or hearing somewhere that the per capita, the majority of the abortions end up happening in black communities.
Yeah, inner cities. That it's always been that way.
Yeah, and I can't help but feel like it's kind of an underhanded eugenics program. Like,
Well,
like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
No,
we
I do.
we
I
look
do.
at the stats, we understand that blacks are like, for any other program, you would say, like, they would say, well, we need some kind of affirmative action to get more blacks in this area because, you know, we're overpopulated whites and black. But they look at those numbers and it's like, yeah, let's have abortions, let's do that.
but if you happen to notice where most abortion clinics are set up, they're usually within the black neighborhoods, like that in Memphis.
Yeah, that's
I mean, I'm sorry, but Planned Parenthood is a smart company to know that if they drop their offices off in areas which they know that the black population are more likely going to have abortion rates higher than, say, the white population, they're going to do it.
that you know
I
where
mean,
you know where your customers are, I guess.
Right, and it's been well documented that some of the people that have worked for Planned Parenthood and the higher ups have made that claim and have actually made comments. You can pull them up on YouTube. They're out there. So
Speaking of which, I have completed the abortion article.
yes,
It will be getting posted soon, and I will be posting it ad nauseum, so
I have.
you will know it's out there. I will
have-
make sure you know it's out there.
Right, and I have read this thing from top to bottom, and this article, it didn't make me so much uncomfortable, but I think it will for women that are in that problematic stage of wanting to either have an abortion or not. They're kind of on that fence. So I think for women in general, it's going to open up their eyes to see that there are other options, and not really trying to give out too many details of the article that you wrote, but I think that's really going to, I mean, there's some elements to that piece that I think a lot of women are going to relate to. And it's my hope that it does change the minds of anybody that finds themselves in that doctor's office.
And in
thinking about
classic
it.
Unframe of Mind fashion, it's
Right.
incredibly offensive, of course.
It is entirely offensive. If you
Lots
don't
of
want
humor.
your feelings hurt, I would suggest
Absolutely.
not reading it.
Absolutely.
Just be careful.
All right, we're going to wrap up the show on a positive note, like we always do, with our favorite segment of the
yeah.
show called the Phobismists.
Phobismists.
Yeah. And let me hit the right button.
Phobismus.
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 Alrighty, and we have Marsha Blackburn. This is from the Tennessean.com, our local paper here in Nashville. Marsha Blackburn says the Green New Deal is a raw deal for Tennessee. Says the Green New Deal will decimate the state's most productive industries and destroy the livelihoods of tens of thousands of Tennesseans, writes U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn. To hear politicians like New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Massachusetts Senator Ed Markey tell it, the Green New Deal recently introduced in Congress will create jobs, raise wages, and improve the standard of living for all Americans.
Sounds so good.
Doesn't say how.
Oh my God, it's
Doesn't
a utopia.
say how. It's like
utopia.
it literally, if anybody's not read the Green New Deal,
Read
it
it.
reads. Huh?
Read it.
Yeah, please read it. It reads like a business plan.
You almost feel dumber
like,
after you get done.
It's almost like listen. It's almost like sitting in front of your investors, like trying to pitch them on this new business idea you have, and say we're going to make lots of money and we're going to make customers very happy.
But we
with
don't know how we're going to do
great
it.
products.
Yeah.
And the investor's like, where do I sign up? Anyway.
Well, this kind of falls in line to the exclusive interview that we got coming up as well.
Right. So the immortal words of General Norman Schwarzkopf. That's just a bunch of bovine scatology, which is Unframe of Mind-ese for bullshit. In truth, the Green New Deal is a raw deal for Tennessee. It will decimate our state's most productive industries, which you already read that. The economic drawbacks of this proposal are too numerous to list in just one column, but here are 3 lowlights that should fill the Tennesseans with dreads. Sorry, should fill all Tennesseans with dread. I put the
Dreads.
I want to be filled with dreads. Lots and lots of dreads. Something about having hair in my ass that just really gets me going in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me. So, proposal would effectively ban cows.
What?
Enjoy that succulent ribeye steak and that flame-broiled quarter pounder while you still can. If the Green New Dealers have their way, cows would be effectively banned all over the concern that livestock, quote, emissions may contribute to global warming.
Oh, dear Lord.
Cattle producers make up the single largest agriculture sector in Tennessee's economy. About half of Tennessee's 65,000 farms raise cattle, generating $735 million in annual sales. Well, lucky for you, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's New Deal promises to raise $736 million in sales annually.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Let it go. Let the cows go, people. We don't need them. Let's all be vegetarians. Tennessee is one of the top beef producing states in the nation, with beef cattle produced in every one of our 95 counties. So let's go on down here. Plan would drive up gas prices. No kidding. Actually, they're trying to get rid of gas, so why would we even have gas prices at all?
Yeah, fossil fuels. Bad.
Yeah. So many people are surprised when they learn Tennessee has only one oil refinery. Employs about 310 people and helps keep gas prices in our state below the national average. Dude, that's impressive that one oil refinery can keep prices below the national average.
If you look at it, though, you can go to one town to the next, and gas is cheap. You head up to Kentucky or elsewhere, man, you're like, holy shit, it's like a $35 increase.
That's actually pretty impressive. So Tennessee's pay an average of $2.048 for a gallon of gas, while the rest of the country pays an average of $2.281.
Okay, so how are we offended by this?
Oh, let me get to the last one here. Expansions for companies like FedEx would be imperiled. Let's see. Recently, FedEx announced they will open a new logistics facility in Memphis, creating an estimated 680 new jobs. FedEx employs over 30,000 Tennesseans. God, I can't talk today. It's getting toward the end of the night. I'm ready for bed. So, in the greater Memphis area, iconic companies like FedEx, International Paper, General Motors, Volkswagen, Electrolux, and AutoZone are supported by the large supply chains that employ countless Tennesseans. Yeah, I know. I'm kind of part of that.
And I am as well.
Under the Green New Deal, these good-paying, family-supporting jobs would go up in smoke. Up in smoke.
Destroy the internal combustion engine.
Is there zeal to destroy the internal combustion engine? These green dreamers seem not to realize or care. They are destroying engines of economic growth in our region. That's a fun article there, guys.
You know, the Tennessean has always been more to lean towards more of a Democratic paper, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So to hear this from them is actually quite impressive.
Okay, so I'm going to add that link for you guys to the description so you can finish reading that if you would like. That is the Phobismist section of our show. We haven't even told you why that's offensive as hell. That's the whole point of the Phobismists. We have to. The whole idea is.
Are you offended by cows?
Well, I'm not offended by cows.
I am.
So let's put on our thinking caps. Let's pull out another crayon because we've only pulled out one the whole show.
Not my fault.
Guess we'll spread them out over a few shows, more than 4.
That's what she said.
So this one is self-identified blue.
Wow. Self-identified blue.
Self-identified blue.
That don't look blue.
It's not blue.
I know.
I get it. I get it. That's funny. It's better than our crayon from earlier.
Well, here, let me pull one since we have to do 3 and we're about to wrap up the show. So
yeah, we'll just do 3 tonight. That's fine. What do you got?
I want to do it in the voice. Hang on, give me a second without laughing. Me color you long time. That is quite the collection of 3 crayons if you put them all together.
And by the way, it's yellow in case.
Yellow. Yeah, get it.
Well,
Asian.
The green screen effect really screws with the yellow.
Ooh.
That's wild looking. That's so cool. It looks like I'm like holding a lightsaber or something. Anyway, sorry for you podcast listening audience. You didn't get to see my awesome crayon. At any rate, I'm trying to put on my I'm perpetually offended by everything in the universe cap and figure out why this is offensive. And I could actually use some help from the audience on this sometimes because I can't always think of these. It really does help.
So hang on a second. Why don't we not find a reason to be offensive and then just let people drop it in the comment section? Let them tell us why they're offended.
This seems like such a cop-out, though.
No, it's not a cop-out. People need to step up and tell us what they're offended by.
Yeah, I heard that. We need you people to step up and actually participate in this shit. I mean, that's what a community is. Like, we talk to each other. We don't just sit here and listen to Daniel and Anthony tell you all about the world's events.
We're so offensive. We're racist. We're homophobic.
Anyway, so yeah, drop it in the comment section.
We'll edit this part out so you guys can watch it and then get with some people and see what you can be offended by.
Here's one more challenge for you. We've got these 3 colors. Me color you long time yellow, self-identified blue, which is actually pink, and Auschwitz ash, which is gray.
Yeah.
So
you just want to get past that last crayon, don't you?
here's the challenge. I want you guys to submit to unframeofmind@gmail.com your pictures that include those 3 colors, and then we'll post them up on the next episode of the Unframe of Mind show. And this has been another episode of the Unframe.
Hey, real quick,
Oh.
that exclusive interview that we got coming up, any details that you want to drop about it, or are you good?
Not just yet. Not just yet. We still got to make sure we've secured the interview first. But yeah, we'll be putting out some hints and clues about what's coming up. You're gonna
Are you
enjoy
excited
this.
about it?
I am
'Cause
excited about
I know
it. Yeah,
I am.
yeah. I think
And
it's
I
gonna be
tell you
huge.
what,
It's gonna be huge for our show, dude.
It is, and it's going to catapult us into where we need to be. And finally, after all these years, it's like, you're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Now, with that being said, I mean, hopefully this doesn't put us out to pasture,
I know.
I hate for that to happen.
I
But
heard that. All right, y'all been watching another episode of the Unframe of Mind show, where we have uncomfortable conversations without a condom. This episode was no exception. I'm looking forward to next week's show. If you guys want to be a guest on the show, please reach out to me. Head over to the website, unframeofmind.com. I've got all sorts of stuff there for you to go check it out. I really do spend a lot of time working on the website, so I would appreciate it if you guys would check it out. Share articles, share videos. I've got a meme section. I've got best of. I've got, whatever you want. There's ways you can donate and help support the show.
Yep.
You can buy merchandise. There's a lot there, okay? So just don't let that all go to waste. Go check it out. And so have a good night.
all right, peace.
All right.